Hello, I'm Kavita Singh. Welcome to Lucid Lectures. Today's topic is blood. Which is from first NCERT book. The whole topic we will discuss with brief intro of the blood and then detailed account about the constituent or the component of the blood. Or the components or constituents of the blood. But before we discuss these things, we must be aware with certain things like why our body pulses the blood, okay, or why all the higher group of organism evolve with the blood. What is complementary found in other group of the organism? So to understand these questions, let's start. Like we all know that all living things, either the organism is very simple or the well developed, they need certain things to maintain their vital activities. Like every organism needs some metabolic gases, nutrients, and also the removal of the waste. And for doing so, they need certain medium for the suspension of these things. Okay, they need certain medium for the suspension of these things. In our case, that medium is the blood. Okay, if we see in very simple organisms like in protozoans, as we know that there they have only single cell enclosed by the plasma membrane, so they have only the cytoplasm within a cell, where the cytoplasm becomes that medium. As in our case, blood is that medium. Okay, this cytoplasm becomes that medium for the suspension of the gases, for removal of the waste, and also for diffusion of the nutrients. Okay, if we go for the group of organisms like in poriferans, insulinratans, they have a peculiar type of water vascular system. So there the water becomes that medium. In their case, water becomes that medium. As in our case, the blood is medium. Okay, if we go further, like from Annelida to Arthropoda, okay, including insecta, they have a special type of fluid known as the hemolymph. That does the exact same function as in our body blood does. Okay, so from Annelida to Arthropoda, they have a hemolymph in complementary to the blood. Porifera and Coelentratans, they have a water in complementary to the blood. And in protozoans, they simply have the cytoplasm in complementary to the blood. Okay, and we know that these fluid primarily work as the for the medium carrying these things, primarily as the medium for carrying these things, like for the carrying the gases, nutrients, and also for removal of the waste. So this is some general things about the blood. Now, to understand blood in more better way, we will first discuss the functions of the blood, and then about the blood, like components and all. Functions of the blood. Okay, so as I was saying, the blood is primarily work as the medium, which means it is carrying the many things. So its primary and first and important works becomes as in transporting or in transportation. So its primary works becomes the transportation. Okay, I think we all have the idea what it will transport. All the metabolic gases like oxygen. It carry the oxygen from the lungs and send it to all cells of the body for the cellular respiration. Then it takes the carbon dioxide as the metabolic waste and deliver it to the lungs for the removal. Okay. Next, what it will be? It will transport all the food materials, all the food molecules or material, food molecules. We know that there is only three types of food can be in categorized only in three types. We know that the food can be categorized in three types. Either they can be carbohydrate or the protein or the lipids. All the food material, doesn't matter which type of food they are, it is transported with the help of the blood. So all the food materials, either they are the carbohydrates, which means if they are carbohydrate, blood will carry the glucose as the monomer of the carbohydrate, amino acids as the monomer of the protein, and simply the lipids, although its monomer units are different. Next, in transportation, what will our blood transport next? All the waste from the body. All the waste from the body to its desired organ for the removal, like well-known urea and lactic acids, and many more. So these all things at a primary level transported with the help of the blood. Next, in the transportation, what blood can transport is the hormones. In our body, actually two types of glands are found. One are endocrine glands and others are exocrine glands. All the exocrine glands possess the duct for distribution or for transportation of their secretion. But endocrine glands does not have the ducts for the secretion, for transportation or for pouring their secretion into that, for transportation of their secretion. So they don't have the duct. In that case, they directly pour their secretion into the blood. So blood carry the hormones from the endocrine glands. As these endocrine glands does not have the duct, they are also known as the ductless glands or ductless glands. Okay. So in transportation, our blood carries the metabolic gases, food molecule, waste and hormones from the endocrine gland. The second important function of the blood is the defense. We cannot imagine our body without the defense mechanism. And all the defense cells, doesn't matter there is only type of defense cells, and they are the WBCs, and all the defense cells are found in our blood that provide us the defense. Third important function of the blood is homeostasis. Actually, it is one of its additional function. Why? I will tell you after explaining it. Homeostasis. What is homeostasis? Homeostasis is simply the thermoregulation. Okay. So, as we know that whatever the temperature is outside, our body is able to control or maintain its constant body temperature at about 37 degrees Celsius. Our body is able to maintain its constant temperature at at about 37 degrees Celsius for the better functioning of all the enzymes and chemicals. Okay, so there is certain mechanism found in our body that help in the homeostasis. So let's see how does the blood is responsible or contributes towards the homeostasis. There is two mechanism, or you can say the processes: vasoconstriction and vasodilation. Through which our blood contribute towards the homeostasis. Let's see what is vasoconstriction and what is vasodilation. Suppose our body temperature is falling. Okay, or we are exposed to the cold environment, or suppose yourself in a cool pool. In these all conditions, what will happen? Before this, skin is the largest organ of the body. Okay, depend on the size of the person, it may be larger, but typically it is about 2 meter. Okay, and it's a dermis layer. Dermis layer of the skin is richly or abundantly supplied with the blood vessels, which means so many blood vessels found in a dermis layer. What happens when we are exposed to the cold or our body temperature is falling? Actually, the blood vessels of our dermis layer, they start to constrict, which means they start to decrease in size, which means they start to narrowing, which means they become narrow. Okay, what happens then? If they are narrowing, their lumen also decreases. What happens in this case? If their lumen is decreasing, they will carry the less blood. Okay, let's contrast it with the vasodilation, that we will discuss it further. Suppose opposite to this, if our body is exposed to the heat or outside environment is very hot, what happens in that case? The blood vessels of the dermis layer, they start to dilate, which means they start to increase in the size, which means they start to widening, and they finally becomes the white. Okay, in what result of this widening of the blood vessels of dermis layer? Their lumen increases. Okay, in this case they will carry the more blood in them compared to the earlier. Okay, actually what happens, our body temperature, because of the metabolic processes, is increases by the about 1 degree Celsius in every 5 minutes. Okay, so maintain this temperature. To maintain this temperature, there is various processes as found, one of which is the vasoconstriction and vasodilation. So what happens when the blood flow from the core of the body to the outer or towards the skin? It carries the blood as well as some heat with it. Okay, so if it is carrying the more blood, it is carrying the more heat. Okay, so if it is carrying the more blood, it carrying the more heat, and if it is carrying the less blood, it will carry the less heat. So here we are exposed to the heat. Okay, what happens here? So temperature outside and inside, both side is more. So here, along with the blood, the blood vessels carry more heat towards the skin. So more heat will radiate out in the environment. Along with the radiation, convection, conduction, many more processes that helps in the homeostasis that we will discuss in detailed in thermoregulation or in functions of the hypothalamus. Okay, so what happens when it is carrying the more blood, then it is carrying the more heat and radiating out more heat from the skin. And in opposite to this case, if outside temperature is cold, okay, or our temperature is falling, so what happens, they constricted, they carry the less blood and less heat. So here they do not letting this formed heat to radiate out, they do not letting it, they are saving here, they are saving the heat here. So we can say that they are conserving the heat. Bilkul, they are conserving the heat. Here they are conserving the heat. So by vasoconstriction, our blood vessel tend to conserve the heat against the cold. Okay, and here if our body or outside environment is very hot or exposed to the heat, our blood vessels of dermis layer tend to dilate and radiate out more heat. That's how they control or contribute towards the homeostasis. Okay, let's revise it. In vasoconstriction, what happens if our body exposed to the cold, the blood vessels of dermis layer, they start to become narrow, and when they become narrow, their lumen decreases. I think everyone aware with the lumen. If this is the blood vessel, this will be the lumen where the blood being carried by the blood vessels. Okay, so in that case, less heat will carried with the blood. Less blood plus less heat will be carried. Okay, in here in vasoconstriction, so our blood vessel tend to conserve the heat. In vasodilation, our blood vessel tend to radiate more heat. So here they lose the heat. Lose the heat. Next important function in the blood, third, hemostasis. Wherever in science stasis come, which means study. Okay, hemostasis means the stopping the bleeding, stopping of bleeding. What it is? Actually, whenever we get any cut or any injury, our blood is start to flow off from the wounds. So how does this stop flowing, or what is clot our blood at that place? Actually, the blood itself is able to clot and also to heal the blood vessels. Actually, there is certain types of coagulating factors found in our blood that help in the hemostasis or stopping the bleeding. Okay, along with some proteins, some type of coagulating factor or clotting factor, along with some proteins that both are found in our blood. That help in the hemostasis, which means stopping the bleeding. So blood is able to stop its bleeding and also able to heal the blood vessels. Okay, so after homeostasis is the hemostasis. Next, fourth, along with these two additional functions, our blood is also able to maintain water content in it. Okay, so it can also help in the osmotic balance. We will soon see in our lecture that there is some type of proteins found in our blood that help in containing the water, so that blood itself is able to maintain water balance in it, water balance in it. Okay, so if blood in itself is able to maintain water balance, which means it is maintaining its osmotic, it is balancing its osmotic content. Okay, what happens in that case? If something is able to control its water content, which means it is also able to control its volume. Okay, indirectly we can say that it is also able to control its volume. Additionally, if it is controlling the volume, it is also able to control its pressure. So these two also can be the function of the blood, but additionally, because the pressure is actually maintained by our heart and volume by so many other things, but at certain extent we can say that if it is maintaining its osmotic balance, it could also maintain its volume and the pressure at certain extent. Okay. Fifth, after the osmotic balance, pH balance. Okay, I think everyone knows our pH, our blood's pH is constant, that lies between the 7.34 to 7.45. In average, you can say that 7.4. Okay, and our blood itself is able to control its pH. Okay, so let's see or revise it in a glance. All the functions. I think I have wrote 3 in 2 times. It's okay. First important function of the blood is in transportation. All the metabolic gases, all the waste and hormones from the endocrine gland, food molecules, everything transported with the help of the blood. Then all the cells that provide or gives us defense, that are the WBCs, are found in the blood. So defense is also becomes one of more important function of the blood. Third is the homeostasis. By vasoconstriction and vasodilation, our blood is helpful in thermoregulation. Then hemostasis, blood itself is able to stop its bleeding and also able to heal the blood vessels. Along with these things, osmotic balance and pH balance also maintained with the help of by the blood itself. Okay, so after this about the functions, we will discuss blood in a biological way. So let's see biologically what is blood. Biologically what is blood? So if you see, biologically blood is the connective tissue. Connective tissue. Okay, what is connective tissue? If any tissue in the body is making the connection between different part of the body, then it becomes the connective tissue, like blood, like lymph, like bones, like fat, etc. Okay, if any tissue of the body makes the connection between different part of body, then it becomes the connective tissue. This is the general biological way to see the blood. Okay, it is a connective tissue. Okay, if you look at the texture of the blood, okay, how it looks liquid. So we can say that the blood is the fluid connective tissue. Okay, blood is the fluid connective tissue. This is the general biological way how would we can define the blood. Now, what are the things are needed biologically to make the blood as the connective tissue, or for a tissue being a connective tissue? We know that the group of cells will make the tissue. If there is group of cells, they will responsible for the making the tissue. Either they are the same types or they are of the different types. They will makes the tissue. So if it is tissue, there will be cells, and in case of the blood, those cells are the RBCs. WBCs and platelets. Okay, and second thing that is needed along with the cells, टिश्यू होने के लिए सेल्स चाहिए. एंड व्हाट इज नेक्स्ट और सेकेंड थिंग नीडेड फॉर बीइंग अ कनेक्टिव टिश्यू इज द let's do it like this slightly. Okay, is the extracellular matrix, is the extracellular matrix. What is this extracellular matrix? Actually, as we are saying, blood as a fluid connective tissue. So in a connective tissue, the cells need some medium for their suspension, okay, or some medium to ground them together. So here we can say that along with cells, a connective tissue needs a extracellular matrix, which is actually a grounding substance, or you can say that along with the cells they need a grounding substance. Okay, what is the work? I think I have told that. What is the work of this grounding substance? To keep all this at a primary level. At a first place, its work is to keep all cells together. So we can say that for binding, I already have wrote this, for grounding or for binding these cells, okay, or for suspension of these cells, okay. In any connective tissue, there is two things needed. One is the cells and others is the grounding substance or the binding substance, okay, where the cells can be suspended. What other is the function of the grounding substance along with this basic and important function? Actually, they work as I have told you, as the medium, also for the medium for the extracellular exchange, okay, as these cells, if they need to exchange something, they need a medium, and that medium becomes this grounding substance. They also work in the extracellular exchange, okay. As we are saying, this cellular part is the living part. This cellular part is the living part of the cell. But this extracellular matrix makes the non-living part of the tissue, part of tissue, okay. So we are discussing the blood. So in case of the blood, that grounding substance or the binding substance or the extracellular matrix is the plasma. I think everyone have the idea. Plasma is the liquid part which is actually the grounding substance for the blood, okay, blood cells. So in case of the blood, that grounding substance or the extracellular matrix is the plasma. So this is biological way to see the blood. Biologically, blood is the connective tissue, or you can say the fluid connective tissue, because its texture is the liquid or the fluid, okay. Connective tissue, if any tissue is able to make the connection between different or two or more than two parts of the body, then it becomes the connective tissue. Biologically, for being a tissue to a connective tissue, it needs two things. First, there will be the cells that will make the tissue. Second, the extracellular matrix. And in case of the blood, that extracellular matrix or the grounding substance is the plasma, okay. Now we will discuss about the components or the constituent of the blood. Components or the constituents of blood. Okay, so component or constituent, what are these things? Whatever the things making the blood actually becomes its components. Okay, if one, either me or you or anybody else, wants to study about the component of the blood, okay, we need a blood sample in a test tube. Okay, what we will do then? We centrifuge it, at least centrifuge it at a very high rotation. Actually, at least it needs at least at 3000 rpm or more. If we want to study blood components, we need the centrifugation of the blood sample at least at 3000 rpm or more. So what is rpm? Rotation per minute. This much rotation we have to do in a minute. Then we can study the components of the blood. Okay, so suppose we are done with the centrifugation. So here our blood sample in a test tube be done with the centrifugation. We will get the 3 layers. Okay, let's check. Change the color, red. Okay, so according to their density they will divide it, and the lowermost part will be acquired by the RBCs. Then we will see a whitish or colorless layer in middle. Okay, that is known as the buffy coat. It is known as the buffy coat. Actually in this layer we see the WBCs and platelets. Okay, next, the uppermost part of the test tube will be acquired by the same extracellular matrix, which means acquired by the plasma. So we are done our centrifugation of a blood sample at 3000 rpm. We get 3 layers: lowermost of the RBCs, middle of the buffy coat, which is of WBCs and platelets, and uppermost of the plasma. Actually, if we talk about percent wise, it is about 55% of total blood sample in an healthy typical person. The percentage can vary according to the health of the person, or only in the health of the person, but typically it is about 55%. Okay, and next, the highest percent acquired by the RBCs, which is about the 45%. Okay, and less than 1% is acquired by the buffy coat or the WBCs and platelets. Okay, if we does the centrifugation, this part, the RBCs or the percentage of the RBCs to the plasma is known as the hematocrit. The percentage of the RBCs towards the plasma is known as the hematocrit. Okay, sometimes this RBCs is also known as the, after the test, PCV, packed cell volume. Okay, so percentage in any blood sample, the percentage of the RBCs to the plasma is known as the hematocrit. Sometimes it is also addressed as the packed cell volume. Okay, when we anytime we go for the blood test, see nowadays test, the percentage of the RBCs is written as the hematocrit. Okay, So in any blood sample, the RBC percentage towards the plasma is known as the hematocrit. Sometimes it is also known as the PCB. So whenever you see the question about the PCB, it will be the RBCs, packed cell volume will denoting the RBCs. And in Buffy coat, which is less than 1%, is acquired by the WBCs and platelets. That's it. And the liquid part, plasma, which is about the 55%. Okay, so these two layers, Buffy coat and hematocrit, which means Buffy coat, hematocrit, platelets, RBCs, WBCs and platelets, all together known as the formed elements. Formed elements. Okay, so now we get another division of the blood. First one is the, let's see it, blood. We can write here the extracellular matrix. Definitely we can. Extracellular matrix, and here formed elements, because being now knows that what is formed element, all the cells together known as formed elements. Formed element. This is how they are given in the NCERT. Formed elements. Okay. So in extracellular matrix, or the grounding substance is the plasma in case of the blood. Okay, this is how we will discuss it soon or next in a lecture. And formed elements, all the blood cells, RBCs, WBCs and platelets. Okay, first of all we will discuss the extracellular matrix, which is the plasma. Okay, now we are going to discuss formed elements about the plasma. Plasma. Some things we already know about the plasma. This is the non-living part. Its most percentage, it is liquid in nature. Okay, chalo abhi discuss karte hain. If something is liquid in nature, which means there is the water. And in case of the plasma, the water is acquire most of the percentage. Acquire most of its percentage. About 90 to 92% is the water. In plasma, about 90 to 92% is the water. If we see next or observe the plasma or the blood itself very closely, we will see the blood very closely. It is not actually the liquid. Okay, it's viscous in nature. Okay, and in biology, or biological thing or life science, whatever, if something you are found as viscous in nature, there will be the proteins. As you can see the eggs, अगर हम अंडे को देखो अंदर से क्या होता है, it is richest source of the protein and from inside it is very viscous, and that all viscosity is given by the protein. Although there is so many other things also responsible for the viscosity in case of the blood also, but at a primary level that viscosity is given by the protein. Okay, so if something is viscous in biology, there will be the protein. So in blood or in plasma there is protein. Next, that is acquired the most of the percentage after the water in plasma. It is about 7 to 8%. Okay, protein is about 7 to 8%. That gives it the viscosity, or you can say that the viscosity of the blood is influenced or given by the plasma protein. And in plasma there is 3 types of proteins are found. They are most important in the albumins. Second one, globulins. globulins and fibrinogens. Okay, so we are coming back to the proteins to discuss them detailed. Let's see what is other found in plasma first. Okay, so water, after water protein, and then some electrolytes like sodium ions, calcium ions, magnesium ions, okay, and bicarbonate ions and chloride, etc. These electrolytes first work in the blood is to maintain their pH. Second is they very helpful in the synapses. They are very helpful in the impulse transmission. What are these impulses? In transmission. So if you know, in our body the messages are transmitted in the form of impulses, or you can say in the form of electric current, and in biology they are known as the impulses. And the electrolytes blood are very useful in the impulse transmission. Okay, the impulse transmission and other things about the electrolyte, those are responsible for the impulse transmission, we will discuss in our other physiological chapter, that is about the neuron and neurology. Okay, so next function of the blood is the the component of the plasma after the electrolytes is there is so many coagulating factors are found. Coagulating factors are found. Actually they are found in the inactive form. Okay, so that our blood is able to maintain its liquidity within our blood vessels. They becomes active whenever we get any injury or blood start to flow from the blood vessels. So many coagulating factors are found, or inactive coagulating factors are found in our blood for the coagulation of the blood whenever they start to flow off from the blood vessels. Next thing which is found in our plasma is heparin. What it is? It is the anticoagulant. Okay, what is anticoagulant? As we know that our blood is in liquid form in our blood vessels. Okay, because of this heparin. This is the anticoagulant which is secreted by the one of our WBCs and found in plasma, that helps in the maintaining liquidity of the blood in our blood vessels. Okay, so this is about some components of the plasma. Let's discuss individually the proteins of the plasma. Okay, what their function, for what they are responsible, and their percentage. So we know that about 7 to 8% of the blood plasma is the proteins, and there is 3 types of proteins found: albumins, globulins, and fibrinogens. Albumins are the most abundant or the richest protein that are found in plasma, and they are about 54%. Okay, their first work is in the osmotic balance. Okay, which means their presence maintaining the content of the water in the blood. Okay, their next function is as the binding protein. How? for binding protein for the lipids and steroid hormones. Okay, how? As we already have seen that most of the content of the blood is acquired by the plasma, which is about 55%, and most of it is acquired by the water, which is about 90 to 92%. Okay, so how is this possible for the blood to carry the hormones from the endocrine gland? As I have said to you earlier, that it is responsible for the transporting the hormones from the endocrine gland, and also carry the lipid in it for the transportation as a food molecule. How it is possible for these two? As we know that lipid and steroid hormone both are the hydrophobic in nature. Okay, both are the hydrophobic in nature, and in our blood most of it percentage is acquired by the water. Okay, because of this protein, those work as the binding protein. Okay, you can say that albumins, the presence of albumins gives the steroid hormone and the lipids entry in the blood. Okay, so they work as the binding protein, lipid and steroid hormone. Okay, that's it. Or in general language, they work as the vehicle for lipid and steroid hormone, so that they get the entry in our blood. Next, about the globulins. Globulins actually the heterogeneous group of proteins. Heterogeneous, which means there is more than one type of protein will be there. Heterogeneous group of protein. Okay. One more thing I would like to add in the albumin, that they are secreted from the liver. Secreted from liver. So from where they get in our blood? From liver. Okay, so come to the albumins. Albumins are the heterogeneous group of proteins, which means there more than one type of protein will be there. Alpha, beta and gamma. Okay, these are the protein that's together known as the globulin proteins. Okay, first of all we will discuss the gamma proteins, because we all have certain idea about the gamma, although some of us do not know what are these gamma protein, but we do know what are the antibodies. So we know that whenever we get infection, some cells, some type of WBCs tend to secrete the antibodies against those infections. Those antibodies actually the gamma globulins. Okay, they are also known as the gamma globulins. In more specific language, they are also known as the immunoglobulins. Okay, so gamma globulins actually the antibodies or the immunoglobulins that are secreted against the infection from our special type of WBCs, which is known as the plasma cell. Okay, so plasma cells secretes the gamma proteins that are found in our plasma. Okay, plasma cells actually the WBCs, okay, secrete the gamma proteins that are found in our plasma, provide us the immunity against some certain type of infection. Okay, they are also known as the immunoglobulins. They also found in certain types that we will discuss in the immunology. Okay, next come to the alpha and beta proteins, alpha and beta globulins of the plasma proteins. Alpha and beta globulins, like the albumins, they are secreted from the liver. Okay, they also work as the binding protein protein for the iron and for fat soluble vitamins. Fat soluble vitamins. Vitamins like A, D, E, K. These all vitamins are carried in our blood with the help of the alpha and beta globulins. So up to here, the alpha and beta globulins work as the binding protein for the iron and ADEK vitamins. So their presence will carry the iron and ADEK vitamins. They are also secreted by the liver. So we are done to the alpha and beta from the liver, gamma from the plasma cells. Done with the albumins and globulins. Now it's become slightly mess, but now about the fibrinogens. About the fibrinogens. These are the well-known proteins. Those are responsible for the blood clot. Blood clot. Okay. Or in blood clotting. Along with the inactive blood clotting factor that are found in blood plasma, fibrinogens also responsible for the clotting of the blood when they are start to flow off from the blood vessels. Though they are responsible for well-known or responsible for the fibrinogen, responsible for the blood clotting. They are secreted from the liver. Okay, so this is done up to here. Okay, I think I forgot to mention their percent. Globulins about 38% of total plasma, and fibrinogens about 7% of total plasma proteins. 7 or sometimes 4%. Okay. Let's do a quick revision of the plasma or the components of the plasma or the things that are found in our plasma, or what are the things that makes the plasma. In plasma about 90 to 92% there is the water, and next is the protein which influences viscosity, and it is acquire about 7 to 8%. And in plasma 3 types of proteins are found. Those are the albumins, globulin and fibrinogens. Albumins about the 54%, globulins about 38%, fibrinogens about 7%, and each of it play important and separate work. Like as albumin, they are secreted from the liver, and their main work as in the osmotic balance and as the binding protein for the steroid hormone and the lipid. Globulins, they are a heterogeneous group of the proteins alpha, beta and gamma. Gamma globulins actually the immunoglobulins that give us the defense against the infections, and alpha and beta globulins work as the binding protein for the iron and fat soluble vitamins like A, D, E, K. At a certain extent, globulin also take part in the osmotic balance and to transport the lipid also. Okay, next protein which is fibrinogens. Okay, which is most important protein that takes part in the clotting of the blood along with the coagulating factor, which is found in the plasma in blood in active form. Okay, next there is electrolytes are found like sodium ions, calcium ion, magnesium ion, bicarbonates, iron and chloride ions. These all are responsible for the impulse transmission and also in the pH balance. Then there is certain inactive coagulating factor are found in the plasma that are responsible for the blood clotting after any injury or could be ever get. And then heparin as the anticoagulant, although this is secreted from the one of our WBCs. So up to here we are done. I think up to extracellular matrix of the blood. Next we will discuss about the formed element, and first of all we will discuss about the RBCs, then WBCs and then platelets. Till then, thanks. If you liked it, do share, subscribe.